terrific experience with students here at AIU. Very engaged, very open, very attentive. For me as a professor, it's always interesting to see different cultural styles in the classroom and different student expectations and student interactions. Most of my experience obviously has been teaching in the United States, but I've also taught in Eastern Europe, and I've done a little bit of teaching in Latin America. So I have seen some variety of settings. I think students here in Japan are probably a little bit more reticent about raising questions or debating with the professor. Although I have to admit, it also may be the particular setting that I've only been here for a week, and that doesn't give the students long enough to develop a personal relationship with me. And it's hard for any student to really engage with a professor who they're just beginning to get to know and they're a little bit afraid of, and they're not quite sure how the professor takes questions. But I found it very engaging, and again, I think it's very useful. In this globalized world of ours, I think it's useful not only for students to be exposed to professors from different countries and with different teaching styles, but I think it's very useful for professors to be exposed to students from very different cultures and in very different interactive settings, and to get an appreciation of the different ways in which students learn and interact in a classroom. So again, for me, this has been a wonderfully useful week, and I appreciate having had the opportunity. Every professor thinks that the topic that they're teaching and that they do research on is the most exciting subject in the world. So I can assure you that American foreign policy and American national security policy is the most exciting subject for any student everywhere, because it's what I love. But more practically, the United States is engaged globally. And here in Japan, of course, the US-Japanese security relationship has been one of the central underpinnings of the development Japan has had in its economic and political relationship with the rest of the world since 1945. And so I think it's useful for students here in Japan and for an international student body here in Japan to think about how American national security policy has evolved, why the United States makes the decisions on the world stage that it does, where to engage, where to disengage, and what to think about for the future, what to expect. What will U.S. involvement in the world mean for Japan and for the world, for worse as well as for better? What will the changes likely be? And how can we plan for those? How can we understand, again, for better and for worse, what the United States is likely to do, and to build our own national programs, and on an individual level, build our own careers, bearing in mind what the future is likely to hold. Thank you.
Thank you very much.